Well, thank you for joining Franchise Business Real Talk. We have a special guest today, Mr. Cail Morrison, who I've known for years and years and years, and we have a franchising background, and our paths have not always been in parallel, but we've always been in touch, and they have crossed and intertwined quite a bit. So, wanted to thank you for joining me today, Cail.
Of course. And now we're even living in the same state.
Yeah, it used to be Colorado, Minnesota, and now it's Colorado, Colorado. When you came to your senses and got
That's
out
right.
here, mountain biking, the mountain biker that you are, and the
Yep.
outdoorsman, and we also have the families, the boys in common. So,
Yep.
and
Yeah, for sure.
great Minnesota wives.
That's
So,
right. That's right.
kind of living the dream.
Midwest. Yep. Midwest beauties.
That's right. That's right. So if you wouldn't mind start up, so our audience is franchise owners, that are trying to boost up their profitability, and maybe some of them are already, 20% or above, but maybe some are below that and they want to boost it up. So, and what I've found is that people having a common background, like an experience in franchising with a franchisor, sometimes it helps to hear stories from outside of the system that still apply, and that can be put to use. So if you wouldn't mind, Cal, could you just start us out with, a little bit of background on you and then maybe how we met and your path so far?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I've been in franchising for over 15 years now. Started back in, gosh, it must have been 2006, 2007 or something like that at Anytime Fitness as a franchise business consultant. So working directly with franchisees. From there, I just kind of moved up and I was very fortunate to be, I was employee number 37 at Anytime Fitness. And I think we might have had 200 gyms open at that time. And of course, over time now, 4,040 countries, I think they have now. So I worked there for 11 years and went through a little bit of the ranks. Again, very fortunate to be there early, was able to jump into the VP of support role and then into VP of operations. And what was really cool about it is that I was able to touch a lot of different things. We used to draw on graph paper the design of the gym, right?
Oh
and
yeah,
and then
I
fax
remember.
it and then fax it over to the contractor, and then he would build the gyms based off of that, which I'm sure you experienced with your first couple. And
Yeah.
I was able to walk into a Chuck Runyon or Dave Mortenson's office and go, hey, this seems pretty silly, we should probably do something a little bit more high tech and things like that. And basically every time I did that, they just told me, hey, be resourceful, go figure it out. And so I was able to hire people and create these little departments. And then, of course, as we grew, we hired great people to support those departments. So it was a really interesting experience for me to go through all that. And I got to see a lot of different perspectives from the corporate side and also from the franchisee side, because when we started the support was completely different from when I left. So that was the start of it, which gave me a ton of great experience. And then I was able to jump over to CEO of Camp Bow Wow, which is how I got to Colorado.
Mhm.
So spent some time over there helping that brand grow, and we did a lot of cool things there. We really streamlined a lot of the from purchase to open. So we wanted to shorten that timeline, create more resources. We rebranded and did a redesign there, and after I left there, they've continued to grow really really well there. My last position, I had jumped into a nutrition coaching company, which wasn't a franchise, but gave me a lot of great experience there too, working with coaches who were contractors who were essentially franchisees. Yeah, like if you could really compare the two. So you get a little
Sure.
bit of that experience. Yeah, so it was interesting with that. So you got some new perspective. And then lastly, I work at Franchise Sidekick now, which I'm sure we can talk about what I do now. And but that's sort of the journey to where I got here. Do you remember our first time meeting?
I'm guessing it was at a conference, wasn't it?
No.
No?
I came out to Colorado and I was doing gym visits, and
Okay.
I had gone out to was it Canyon City?
Canyon City, yeah, down
Yeah.
south. Yeah,
So
for
so I
sure.
so I went out to Canyon City, and you missed our appointment, sir. And and
Oh,
and I was on my way back towards Pueblo, I'm assuming. I can't
yep,
remember back then. And you
yep.
called me and you're like, I just got here. Can you still come back? And I was probably an hour and a half away. And I flipped that car around and came
Nice.
back, and you and I had a great conversation, which I think at that time, that particular gym, you had some great locations, but that one
Mhm.
wasn't doing as well as you wanted it to. So we had a pretty good conversation around that.
Geez, good memory. Good
Yeah.
memory. Yeah, and way better than my memory. And thanks for the grace. Yeah, that was interesting. Out of our any times, that was the I'll turn this back. I hope Chuck watches this at some point in time because when we bought, we were going to buy one territory, and this is how good Chuck is. We walked out with six territories.
Of course.
Nothing like I don't know what the percentage is, but that's a big growth percentage.
Yeah.
And he said, "You got to go down to Canyon City. We ran some promos down there, and
Mm.
you're just gonna do so well there." It ended
Yep.
up being our worst one, and
Yep.
one of the locations that he said, but we wouldn't do well in. We still have it.
Crushed
It's
it.
a home run. It's a
Yeah.
home run location. So, so thanks for the grace in that and coming back for that.
Of course, of course.
So,
Listen, I was driving around Colorado. There wasn't a lot of bad scenery,
right.
doing that. So it was a lot of fun for me too. So
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah, you never get bored of driving around Colorado for
yeah,
sure.
for
So
sure.
that's interesting. Number 37 employee for
Yep.
Anytime Fitness, and then rose up through the ranks. You've done pretty much everything in franchising. Just one quick question on that, and before I go down the other path, is like when you were head of the VP of support. I know one of your past employees that turned out pretty well.
Yeah.
Um, there's probably way more than one, but I'm very familiar with one because I married her.
Yep. That's
Um,
right.
but and then she went on to do great things there as well.
Yes.
But what would you look for? So a lot of our audience are working with franchise business coaches or whatever they're called in your system, but they're
Mhm.
basically someone there to be a liaison between your operation that you're trying to drive and working with the franchise system and making sure that you're leveraging all of their tools and processes and things like that.
Yep.
It's a really important position. Like,
Yep.
there's also compliance issues. Sometimes that feels
Mhm.
more like a parent-child relationship. And then
For
there's
sure.
some like, no, we just want you to win because franchisors do want all their franchisees to win. I mean, it's
Mhm.
pretty rare when you run into a bad franchise system. Like I can only name a few of them, but
Yeah.
none are in existence anymore. But what would you look for in a person like that?
Yeah, I mean, it was really interesting when we were hiring, and I feel very passionate about the team that we had early on and through, the most of the time that I was there is we looked for people that did really care about the brand, right? Like, I mean, a lot of the people that I hired were people that had some exposure to the brand, whether they were somebody who was at the time an H2 I hired to Inspire. Remember that? So they were
Yep.
a manager in an Anytime Fitness, and they knew the brand already. They had a passion for the brand, and then we would bring them to Minnesota, and they would become our franchise business consultants. What I always said when I was hiring was, if two people are the same, then one of them is not necessary. So we
Mhm.
wouldn't go down the path of hiring like all managers. In fact, sometimes managers that had that experience would come in and have a really extreme bias towards like one particular thing. So we really
Sure.
tried to hire, different people from different backgrounds, and as a team we became very, very strong. I think what it came down to, we hired people from the banking industry, we hired people from the real estate industry, we hired different people, but they all had really strong business sense. They usually had a passion for the product, right? Whatever the product is. In our case, it was fitness, so they were fitness enthusiast or whatever it was, and then they brought some sort of specialty to the table, and we all learned from that specialty. So
Mhm.
business experience, passion for the product, and then some sort of unique thing that made them a little bit different that we all could get better by. Because again, if we hired all the same person, we're not really getting any better. We're just sort of, swimming in the same pool. So those are the
Right.
three things that we looked at when we hired people. And I think when I left there, we had a little over about maybe 30 franchise business consultants. So it's not like I hired one or two. And of course
Right.
there was turnover too. I mean, so I probably hired 40 to 50 franchise business consultants through my time there. And so those are the main three things that we kind of focused
That's
on, which I think really helped us grow because again, a franchisee comes in and they need this special, thing, real estate or whatever it was. we had that person in house to be able to help us navigate that conversation.
Yeah. And I know that you guys spent a lot of time socializing.
Yes, we were
Sometimes,
a tight knit
some,
group.
some, yes, I said socializing because, there was a fun atmosphere
Yeah,
around, any time when it was developing and growing. And some people would say like, well, it's a little crazy. I mean, we know they didn't hire HR for a long time for a reason,
yeah,
right? But I think the advantage of that is like you guys got to know each other so well that people on the team would, maybe they heard about it, at a volleyball game or something that, John had, knew the Chaska market and knew someone in real estate there, like things that
yeah,
you wouldn't have in a normal organizational meeting. So I think that
yeah,
culture of the franchise system, especially at the corporate level, which, sometimes not everybody has eyes on or anything like that, but
yeah.
if they're close knit, I think that's a huge advantage.
Yeah, and we were. I mean, we did a lot of everything together. I mean, I remember when I left there, I remember feeling like I lost a lot of my really great friends too,
Yeah.
and even franchisees. I mean, what was crazy about, we developed relationships with our franchisees, that
Yeah.
were close, and I still talk to. I mean, you and I are good friends now, and at that time it was business consultant franchisee relationship,
Yep.
and so I think that goes a long way with all of our franchise business consultants, that we knew business enough that franchisees respected us as well as not just this talking head over at corporate, but
Right.
listen, we kind of knew what we were doing too, so
Yeah.
so it was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
And then I think also, in an early franchise, then we grew together. A lot of the franchisees were early business, folks too. They were coming out of a corporate job or something like that, and this was their opportunity to do something. So we kind of grew together.
Yep.
And now some of those same franchisees, I mean, one of the, some of the top franchisees in the Anytime Fitness network were one unit franchisees that really didn't know much about franchising or business at the time.
Yeah.
I think it was a really cool dynamic, and maybe we had something a little magical there. But I mean, I think that even when I went over to Camp Bow Wow, it was sort of the same thing. They were the franchise business consultants, new business, super passionate about dogs, and then they all brought some sort of unique past experience to the team that made them really great. So I think that
Yeah.
there's a magic there with that combination.
For sure. So that brings up another question, and that is, as you've probably worked with thousands of franchise owners, and sometimes their teams as well. And like in any franchise, there's people that just go to this level, and there's people that don't go that high, but it's the perfect thing for them. They have control of their lives. They're happy. They're in their good spot. You also have people that are like struggle with it. It's a small business. It's not easy. You only get the hard questions. You don't get the easy issues. I'm just curious to see if you saw over these years just a common habit or common trait of the high performers in the various systems that you've been in. And do you think that's replicatable in most people? And that could be also, some people are super strong in their financial area,
Yeah.
and they're gonna run that business that every I is dotted, every T is crossed. They know every expense
Mhm.
down to the penny. Some people are like, I know that's good, but they're community driven, and their business is going to do great because their community, they're just in the community, ingrained, and that community is going to support them back. And then you have people that are great salespeople, and they drive it that way.
Yeah.
So it's not one trait that does it, but like, how have you seen people? Do they lean into their strength and just really focus on that? Or are they also trying to shore up? Maybe they have some weaknesses. And where do you see the franchisor fitting into that?
Yeah, so I think one thing that I've really learned, especially from Franchise Sidekick, the newest thing that I'm doing, is sort of starts at the beginning, right? Most people going into franchises, they are either somebody who has a portfolio already of businesses and they want to do something else, they want to add to their portfolio. Then there's the 9 to 5 person that wants to get out of their 9 to 5 and they want to go do something else and replace their income. And then there's the person that's in a job that they enjoy or like or want to keep, and they want a side business. And
Hmm.
so when we talk to those three different types of people, and I think that that's where it starts is like, we try to identify where do you fit in the business. Here's what you're doing now. Where do you fit in the business? If you're a portfolio guy, you've obviously have a bunch of other resources and you're focusing more working on the business, where that person's not going to try to jump in the business and work on it to save labor costs or whatever the heck it is. They've got
Right.
this structure created and they're going to work on the business. I think it gets a little bit harder for those that are trying to leave the 9 to 5, or they are trying to create this side job for themselves or side income, because they get confused on what is necessary, what they're good at, and maybe what they enjoy. And this is where what I find most of the time. Most of the people try to work in the business, and a
Hmm.
lot of times it comes because they are jumping into a passion play, right? So fitness was a great example, and actually dog daycare and boarding is another great example. They're passionate
Sure.
about animals, so they try to jump in and do the work. But for example, at Anytime Fitness, they try to jump in and be the person in the gym, but they didn't realize they were going to have to call prospects. They didn't realize they were going to have to sell memberships. They didn't realize that they're going to have to talk to people all day long. And that, while they might be great fitness people, they may not be good at those three things or enjoy these three things. But now they've left their 9 to 5 and now they're stuck, and the only way out of this is to hire somebody, but then that costs them money.
Right.
But at the end of the day, that may be the exact thing they need to do. Otherwise, they're going to continue going in the direction they're going by being in the wrong seat. Instead of hiring somebody, put them in the right seat, and then find out where the owner really needs to position themselves, which might be working on the business, not in the business. And so that's
Hmm.
probably the most common thing that I see is people trying to jam themselves in a a seat that they don't actually fit in or like or are good at, right? And then
Yeah.
they can't get themselves out because
Right.
they're stuck, because you have to hire somebody to fill that spot that they don't excel at. So
Right.
that's probably the
Yeah.
biggest thing that we saw across the, or I would say that's one. That's one side of it that they get into. I don't know if you want to chat about that quick, but the other side of it is obviously like franchise engagement, right? Like that's
Yep.
the other side of things. So wrong seat, and then are you engaged with the brand and or your own business, right? You even see, so there's like seat engagement, and
Hmm.
engagement can be in your own business or with corporate and the franchise itself. So
Good point. Yeah, there's when people speak about engagement in their business. So just because I am a franchisee as well and have been since 2007,
yeah,
as well as a franchisor, and I've been there, and I know what that feels like sometimes, especially if you're just going in and you're bootstrapping this, and you got to get it to profitability in the
yeah,
first 6 to 12 months. It's not like, well, I need a part-time CFO and I need this. It's like, well, I have a
hmm,
budget, and that's what I'm doing,
yeah,
right? So
for
so
sure.
there's engagement with the operational unit itself,
Hmm.
working with the employees and the clients walking in the door and the vendors and all that. And then there's engagement with the franchise system.
Yeah,
And what I've seen is sometimes either way, but it's usually people get involved in trying to keep up with the business. They're fielding all the issues, all that kind of stuff. And they're like, I don't have time to engage with the franchise system. My
hmm,
FBC guy or gal keeps calling me,
yeah,
and I don't have time for that. I got to go make sure that John gets into work on time,
hmm,
and that we've got gym wipes, or we have nail polish, or
yeah,
we have whatever supplies are used in doggy daycare. I'm sure there's a lot of them, sterilization things, and then there's a sense of overwhelm, and there's a sense of like,
totally.
I don't know what to do. And so sometimes what we've seen is people default to what they feel most comfortable in,
Yeah,
to the neglect of everything else. And one of the things that I like to say is like that's one of the reasons you got into a franchise system,
hmm,
because franchise systems want you to be successful. And if
right,
you know that you're good at numbers or you're good at marketing or whatever, and you're not good at this, like communicate that to them and just be like, hey, I need extra help here and things like that. And there's also the engagement level of lots of times when systems are getting bigger, they're just pumping stuff out to the system so that everybody gets it at the same time. It's fair for everybody. There's
yeah,
new technology, there's a new process, whatever. And I have been this franchisee. I will readily admit it. It's like
Yeah.
I don't have
Go
time to
on.
look at the dashboard all day. Like
Yeah.
I am running. But
Yeah.
and then I talked to the FBC and they're like, well, why are you calling me with this? Because if you would have read one of those notices, you would have known that. And I'm
Yeah.
sure from the franchisor perspective, they're like, if you would just, I'm not saying this for, my system, but like
Yeah.
I'm sure my FBC is like, I wish you would read things a little bit more,
Yeah.
like not understanding that we've all got a ton of things to read, right?
Yeah.
But there's a fine line there,
Yeah.
of you got to handle what's in front of you, but also that engagement with the franchise system is working on the business. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And also getting support. Like you can ask for support and you'd be surprised at what you can get, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it goes both ways, no matter what. I mean, franchisor has to do their job, franchisee has to do their job, but you're right. I mean, the overwhelm, and then you think about this, they're overwhelmed with the business, but they're also overwhelmed at home because things are piling up there too, right? So a lot of times, when I found, franchisees, it just snowballs, right? And so when things start to not go right or whatever, again, are you in the right seat? And they keep doing that, then you don't use the support, that snowballs, and then all of a sudden, bills aren't getting paid or whatever the heck happens. That starts to snowball, and the overwhelm, you don't know where to begin, you don't even know where to start.
Right.
And so, I always go back to, like, I think at some point you got to like take a breath, sit back, and you have to like go, okay, what am I good at? Where do I fit in this business? And then you have to make a plan to like address, like, I got to put myself in this seat, and then I have to find somebody to put in this seat. Otherwise, like, my business is not going to go anywhere. And those are the tough questions that we had to have, or tough conversations we had to have, is just like, listen, do you want to fix this, or don't you? and
Yeah.
and that's the tough. I think that's really the tough part, especially from a franchise business consultant standpoint, because you got to have a tough conversation with somebody who doesn't really want to admit that they might not be doing very well. They might
Right.
not be putting out the vibe that they really want to be portraying. And I think at a certain point, like, those two groups have to like just like let the ego go, let it all go,
Yeah.
have the conversation, figure out what needs to be done.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just going to go further in the wrong direction. So I think
Yeah.
it goes both ways, and both sides have to be really open to having those conversations. Otherwise, it just doesn't work.
And I think, yeah, it's a really good way of putting it. And I think that's one of the reasons I love small business ownership for myself and my family. And we've seen literally thousands of people change their lives, get to spend more time with their families, through small business ownership. But it's not an easy path, right? And it's always there, but like you eventually will have more control. There's a saying, freedom comes through mastery.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
try that in small business. Try to be a master at
Yeah.
everything in a small business. It is, they say it's not rocket science, but it's really hard,
Yeah.
right? But at the same time, it's totally worth it. And
Yeah.
and I'm sure you've got 100 people that you can think of that were just kind of miserable in whatever vocation they were doing. They took a chance on this, and they have one unit that just kicks butt for them, and they have their life, or they have 32 of them or whatever,
Yeah.
now all of a sudden, and they've grown and it's self-discovery. But you're right. I think the biggest thing is on both sides is like we're growing together. Let the
Mhm.
ego go. If you're really not good at one aspect of small business, well, there's 19 others that you might kick butt in,
Yeah.
and take pride in that. There's freedom in that, and then get some help on the other side. And get some help doesn't always mean pay someone. Like you reach out. Like one of the things that I found, and I'm sure you have too in franchising, is people are so willing to help each other. We've had multiple calls with other people in our own competitive market, competitive industry space, and they're helping each other out, right?
Totally.
And you can get help. You just got to ask questions, right? It's
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing in
Yeah, I mean,
franchising.
at the end of the day, I mean, everybody wants to share their expertise, and in some way, shape, or form. I mean, you and I have had this
Yeah.
conversation, right? It's like I came to you to talk to you about a new opportunity for me, and we had a
Yeah.
great conversation about it, because you're always willing to help, and you've helped tons of other people, and it goes vice versa. I've got people
Right.
asking me about hey, what type of franchise do you think I would work well in? And because I think
Sure.
that's another layer of it too, is sometimes I think people, they go down a path of either passion or business, right? It's either I'm passion focused, I want to do this thing because I'm passionate about it, or this makes sense from a business standpoint. And
Hmm.
sometimes like I'm finding even opportunities that I see passion in, I'm going, geez, the business opportunity is better over here. You know what I mean? And so
Hmm.
I think that even when picking a franchise, and I know we're talking about a lot of people that are already in franchising, but at the
Sure.
same time, it may be an opportunity for a franchisee to step back and go, am I in the right franchise? And do I need to get this to somebody that is going to be better at this franchise, and I go do something else? Because small business ownership is just that. It doesn't mean it's not button hooked into one specific franchise.
Right.
So a lot of times I even think that it's just like, maybe it's not that you're not cut out to be a business owner. It's just like you might be in the wrong business. So I think
Right.
there's so many layers to it. But I think it just takes people to take the opportunity to breathe and step back and go, okay, this is happening to me. What is my solution here? Like, what is my next step? What is my action? So
Yeah. Yeah.
hard to do sometimes when you're in the
Yeah.
middle of it.
Well, yeah, and sometimes with small business ownership, there's a long tail on it. Like you can't be like, this is uncomfortable, I got to get out. It's like,
Yeah.
well,
You
there's
got
a
a
lot
couple
of things you
loans.
got
You
to
might have a
consider.
couple of loans. You might own some
Le-
equipment.
Leases and
Yeah.
loans and things like that.
Yeah.
So, but I've seen it in any time. I've seen it in our own system where people are struggling, but they get through it.
Yeah.
Like they have that heart to heart with their FBC, or they have a heart to heart with themselves and just be like, I don't know, like maybe once I push through this and make this a success, because if someone else is in the system is having success, that means 99 times out of 100 you can have success too.
Totally.
You just got to buckle down. It's simple. It's not easy, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to make this, sound too simple,
Yeah.
but like you just got to do it, get it to the point where you can have a successful exit, because you can exit two ways, unsuccessfully or successfully,
For
right?
sure.
And so if you push through and have a successful exit, well, then not only did you have that experience, not only did you persevere, not only did you get through and hopefully make some money. That's the idea of business, is making
Mhm.
money. You have all that experience. You're so much smarter for it. You can go apply that to anything else.
Totally.
Believe me, because when franchise systems are evaluating prospects to see who to award territories to, if someone's
Mhm.
got a successful track record in franchising, they are
Yeah.
up here compared to the other people, just because
Totally.
that means they can execute, they follow the processes, they have obviously persevered. There's not one system out there that at some point in your small business ownership, journey, are you not going to run into like four problems at once that you're like, I don't know what to do here. You
Totally.
know, one at
Totally.
a time, ask for help, lean
Yep.
on the franchise system, and
Yeah.
that's why you're in it. So
Yeah.
I think, you've probably seen those stories in all of yours.
Yeah.
What I would also like, I see your franchise sidekick. I know that's
Yeah.
a your new position, and I know
Yeah.
some people involved in that. And so, if you wouldn't mind just sharing with us, like what you're doing there, and why you joined, and what the organization is hoping to do.
Yeah. So what we do is we help people live life on their own terms, which is ultimately what so many people want to do. And you hear stories constantly of people that are not happy wherever they are, or they want to grow. Again, they want to grow their portfolios. They're not happy where they are, so they want to do something else, or they just want more freedom that comes with possibly more income from a side business. So
Hmm.
we help people do those things. And what our ultimate goal is to reduce the risk that they have when buying a franchise. So, like I mentioned before, a lot of times people, might think, well, one, they get the idea that, like, I want to do one of those things. I want to expand my portfolio. I want to leave my 9 to 5. I want to have a side business. And it's like, where do you begin? There's 4,000 franchises out there. Like,
Yeah.
where do you even start? And again, that goes to where, do I start with my passion, or do I start with something that makes sense from a business standpoint? And what's cool about what we do is we can talk to people and get to know them and understand by asking questions and interviewing them what might be the right fit for them. So we have about 60 brands currently in our inventory. And so basically we're franchise matchmakers, I like to call it, right? You get to know somebody a little bit, and then you help them by saying, hey, Guy, I think one of these 3 to 5 franchises might be right up your alley. Let's talk through them and see if something, it lights a little fire under you. And then we can go down the path in partnering with the franchisor, and then really talking about the nuts and bolts of it, the operations, the economics, and all that good stuff. And then, you finally can get down to making a decision. But I think a lot of people, see an ad, or they see something, or they drive by something, and they're like, I'm going to go down that path.
Mm-hmm.
But what they don't get, and I always relate this to hiring. I remember, going down the path of hiring people, and somebody will go to me, you got to hire this person. And I'm like, okay, well, who are the 3 other people that I'm going to interview? And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
no, hire this person. I'm just like, no, I will always interview other people next to them, because it'll do one of 2 things. It'll either expose me to somebody who has more experience, whatever it is over here that I want to hire instead of that person, or it 100% validates that this person was the right choice. So it's the
Mm-hmm.
same with franchises. Like they might come in looking at this one brand, but what I like to do is expose them to a couple different brands, and then again, it shows them, gosh, this is really interesting. Or you know what? Nope, it still keeps this up high. So that's essentially what we do. Is
Okay.
we want to help people live on their own terms. We want to reduce the risk, show them, get to know them, show them a bunch of different brands, and then help them along that journey of finding the right brand for themselves. So maybe they don't end up in a seat or a business that isn't right for them. So we want to try to help them make the best decision they possibly can. So that's what we do.
Wow. Definitely a needed service because, when people are getting into this, they get inundated with information
Yep.
and, everybody's trying to sell them what they got, right?
Well,
So,
and that's the other thing is we provide the opportunity to like look at things from an objective point of view, and so we try to point out, hey, and there's pros and cons to everything, but there's also pros and cons to the person. So again, if the thing that they're looking at is very B2B focused, business to business, that may not be their best fit. So we
mhm,
talk to them about, hey, this franchise is awesome because these 3 things or whatever. But you did mention that maybe you don't like going business to business and talking to different businesses. So that might be where you struggle a little bit. So if you do want to go down this path, where do you fit? And
mhm.
where do you supplement yourself in this B2B piece of the business? So it makes them think about those things, makes them think about their own weaknesses and their strengths, and where they would fit in that business before they decide to go down that path. Ultimately, might go, well, I actually think I'm going to go with that other route because that fits my strengths and my goals a little bit better. So it all
Sure.
happens through a collaborative conversation, which I think is really cool. So we're
Yeah.
not trying to jam them down one place. It's like, hey, listen, let's work on this together and find out really what the best fit is for you and your best opportunity for success is. And then we
Right.
go down that path. So
Yeah.
very fun. Love it.
Wow. That's a life-changing position right there.
Yeah, well,
Literally.
I mean, that's the thing
Not
is,
just one life, but a whole family's life too, right?
yeah, and it's a part of what I want to do for myself. It's a part of it's just something that really fits really well with where I am right now in my life, and so super passionate about it, and I just really enjoy helping people find that, because what I hate, and you too as a business owner and somebody who helps other people, is like you hate to see people go down the wrong path and end up failing, right?
Right.
That's like nobody wants to see that. And so being on the proactive side of that now, helping people down the right path versus trying to resurrect something that might have gone wrong is a really cool way to go. But so yeah,
Right.
so it's a lot of fun for sure.
That's
And a great
nice.
group of people, I'll say too. A few of the people over at
Yep.
Franchise Sidekick, and
Yep.
great group of people on top of it. So it's not just
Absolutely.
me. Got a great team over there helping people do this.
Yeah. With a track record of success, by
Yeah,
the way.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, yeah,
Never hurts to hook your wagon up to people that win a lot,
yeah.
right?
That's right.
So
Yeah.
kudos to them and the organization and what you guys are doing. And
Yeah. Thank you.
I appreciate what you're doing, and I appreciate you coming on the show here and sharing
Yeah.
some of your knowledge. How would people? We'll also put this in the show notes and everything. But how would someone get in contact with you? Maybe it's someone that already has a system. They got it. Maybe they want to do a have multiple brands or something like that. Or maybe someone they know would utilize your service. How would they? What's the best way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, I mean, franchisesidekick.com is obviously the best place to go. There's a place where you can set up a 10-minute consultation, if it even takes that long to kind of get you started down the path. Meet with one of our specialists, and then the specialist will do a initial screening and then bring you over to one of the advisors like myself. So, and of course, you can always ask for me, and of course, all the social media out there, Franchise Sidekick is available, I believe, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and all that good stuff.
Great.
So yeah, and I've got a couple of my own pages as well that we can link, I'm sure, to
Okay.
get that to them if they want to get any of that stuff. So
All right. Great.
I share a lot of
Yeah.
the same info, but in case they want to.
Sure. Sure. An easy way to get a hold of you and have a
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah.
Everything
Absolutely.
happens in a conversation, right?
That's right. That's right.
Even
That's the way it goes.
even if you miss the original appointment and the guy has to come back,
That's right. That's
down
right.
Highway 50.
That's right. I got a speeding ticket too, by the way.
Oh, come on. Really?
I don't think I ever told you that because I didn't want you to feel bad about making me come back, but I got a speeding ticket. But you've bought me lunch enough times to have made up for that. So I appreciate you.
Well, thank you so much, Cal. I really appreciate you coming on, and and helping more people own their own business. I think is huge, and to help people that are in it understand that if you're not exactly where you want to be, welcome to the club. There will be a day you're going to get better and better at it. Just ask people, and I love the idea of more people being in small business ownerships. I heard a little while ago someone said, "Yeah, I want more people to own businesses even on Main Street because then people, if you own a part of the businesses on Main Street, you don't burn it down when things go wrong, right? Like it's
Totally.
not like I give up. It's like you keep going and you build
Yeah.
and for people that haven't been in small business ownership, there is a kinship there, and like we're in this together.
Yeah.
And because you worked for big companies too, but gigantic corporations, and you just don't have it. And then all of a sudden, when you do, you're like, all right, other people got my back. They're willing to share,
Yeah.
and we can win because we're providing something that a lot of people can't do on their own. So thanks for being a part of that and being a
Yeah.
part of the franchise world because I think it's great and I appreciate it. I bet you someone's gotten a couple of kernels of knowledge from this that will help them get through and get to that what they dreamt about.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me. Entrepreneurs and small business people are solving the problems of the world. And so the more of us, the better.
you nailed it. Thank you so much, Cal.
All right, man. Good to see you.
All right. See you.